Today is August 14th in the year 2008, and I am here to have an interview with Mr. Donald Harold Metro. Mr. Metro is a veteran of World War II and the Korean War, and he currently resides, where do you reside? In Berkeley?
Yes.
Berkeley, Michigan. Mr. Metro was born in the year 1925. I have just met him. My name is Butch Koff, and I will be the interviewer, and Mr. Henry Summerscupper will be the videographer. Mr. Metro, Don, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in, and where did you serve?
I was in the U.S. Navy during World War II, and most of my service was in Florida, California, and the Pacific.
Okay. Were you discharged from the Navy after World War II?
Yes, in 1946.
So let's just kind of start from the beginning, Don. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, where did you grow up, go to school, and how you ended up in, at first, the Navy.
Well, I had an older brother who was killed, and had a next-door neighbor about the same age, and he kind of took over as my big brother. He went in the Navy in 1936. You know, jobs were very hard to get, and getting into service was very hard. And he was kind of my hero. He was on the Lexington when it sunk in a coral sea. And so that there was no question that I was going to go in the Navy. It was just when my parents would sign.
Yeah. Now, where are you living at? In Detroit?
At the time?
Uh-huh.
No, in Rochester, Michigan.
That's where your youth was spent, in Rochester?
Yes.
And what school did you go to up there?
Rochester High.
Rochester High, which still exists, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. So did you have a good childhood? How many brothers, sisters? You know?
There were 3 brothers and 3 sisters.
3 brothers and 3 sisters.
Yes, I think I grew up, of course, during the Depression, but I think I had a good childhood.
You didn't feel it, the Depression yourself? You thought it was a...
Just food-wise, sometimes. Other than that, you know, we were all happy-go-lucky kids.
Yeah, life was good.
Yeah.
So, you went through the Rochester school systems. Did you graduate from high school?
No, I left to join the Navy.
Ah.
I would have graduated in June of 43, and I left in November of 42.
Okay.
When the Navy, but after I got discharged from the Navy, I went back to school. I couldn't stand it. So later I got a GED. Then later yet, I went to Michigan State University and graduated in 1956.
Fantastic. So, okay, so your dream as a little guy was to go into the Navy?
Yes.
Okay. So here you are, biting at the bit, and it comes to be the war started in 41. You're not quite old enough to enlist, but come the next year in 43. Did you enlist in 43, right?
42.
42, I'm sorry. 41, the war started.
Yeah.
So,
the war wasn't quite a year old, and I enjoyed it.
Were you, and you were living at home. You recall your first days in service? Where'd you go to boot camp?
In Great Lakes. I remember the first day. They stupid me put his hand up when they asked who knew how to handle a rifle. So they gave me an old 1903 Springfield, a clip of ammunition, and I guarded a coal pile all night, off and on, 4 on, 2 off.
So you had some experience with firearms?
Oh yeah.
Because Rochester was out in a rural area, and...
Yes. My older brother took me out a lot with a rifle. And that was my first experience. Since then, I learned not to volunteer for anything.
Right. that was one of the things you learned in boot camp. Of course, there's the physical training. Was that a problem?
The only thing that I really remember about boot camp is it was cold.
Yes, yes.
And we were on that grinder, you know.
And washing your clothes and hanging them outside?
Right.
Yeah. With little clothes steps.
Yeah, with a bar and GI soap and a brush.
Oh, yeah.
Every night.
Okay.
In the shower room.
Get those whites white.
Yep.
You remember your instructors?
I remember them visually. I don't remember the names.
Right. So now you graduate from boot camp, and you're an apprentice, right? Seaman apprentice? Fireman apprentice?
Seaman apprentice.
Seaman apprentice. And what was your assignment after boot camp?
That we put in for what we wanted to do, the schools, and I put in for aviation and ordnance because my friend, who was a chief petty officer by that time, he was an aviation ordnance, so he talked me into that, and I went to school in Norman, Oklahoma.
Oh, Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And what was, it was an A school probably. What did you learn there?
Oh, all about armament
Uh-huh.
on the airplanes, and that's all it was ordnance.
Yeah. So after that graduation from aviation ordnance school, what happened then?
Then I was sent to Pensacola, Florida.
Florida. To a Navy base?
Yeah.
A Navy Air Base?
Yes, it was a satellite of the main base. It was in Alabama, Barron Field, B-A-R-I-N.
Uh-huh.
And of course we called it Bloody Barron because of all the crashes.
Oh. You mean from pilots learning how to fly in that?
Partly.
And they were probably loaded with ordnance and...
No, it was just a mess. There were so many. There were dozens of airplanes in the sky all day.
So how long did you spend there? Was that like training?
No, I was an ordnanceman working on the machine guns on the planes and practice bombs. And I don't recall how long I was there. Probably a year, 9 months a year.
Did you get to sit in a cockpit and fire any of those machines?
Oh yeah.
That had to be kind of a thrill.
I did a lot of flying down there. Well, yeah, but after the first couple of times, it's old stuff.
Oh, okay.
My daughter wanted me to tell a story of a kid that was a cook. He slept under me in the bunk under me. He always was pestering the pilots to take him up. So one day his pilot said, I've had it with you. Be ready at 2 o'clock or whatever it was, and I'll take you for a spin. So the kid got his parachute and he's waiting. He's jumping up and down. So the pilot told him, now, you don't have any earphones, so if something happens, I'll put my hand on the side of the plane and slap it. And you can slide your hand down the side of the plane when it's going. Just don't twist it out. And he said to get out of the plane. So the kid was, okay. So they went up and the kid had the cowling open and the draft came around, was hitting the pilot on the back of his head, and it was getting cold. They were probably up 8,000 or so. So he went like this to close the hatch, and the kid thought he meant get out, and he bailed out over the Gulf of Mexico. He was in the water for 4 or 5 hours before the Coast Guard picked him up. So they asked him later if he wanted to go up again. He says, never, ever, ever again.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
It was funny. I'll never forget that kid. His name was Oscar Samples. He was from Atlanta, Georgia.
He learned a lesson.
Yeah.
Pay attention. So now you're at Pensacola working in ordnance. Are you happy so far?
Miserable.
And the reason being?
I wanted to get overseas. All of us did, you know. We were stupid.
Well, now at the time you had all that patriotism in your heart, and
Propaganda.
yep, serve your country.
Yeah.
But later we learned it's propaganda.
Yep.
Yep, sure do.
At the time it was kill those Japs.
Yeah. So okay, where's your next assignment?
Let's see. I went to Alameda, California.
Alameda.
Yeah. Fleet Air Wing 8. And of course, being the new guy, I got to clean all the new machine guns with Cosmoline.
Uh-huh.
I spent my days cleaning.
Briefly explain to the viewers what cleaning machine guns is all about. Number one, to keep them in running shape, but
Well, you have to clean them every time they're fired because of the residue left in the barrels. And the guns would jam up if you didn't keep them clean.
right.
But the Cosmoline was they were packed in Cosmoline and heavy paper from the factory.
Uh-huh.
And it was very difficult to get that stuff off. It was like tar. And it preserved the guns. You could ship them any place and they wouldn't get rusty.
Yeah.
But it was a bear of getting clean. So it's usually the low guy in the totem pole that got the job.
Yeah.
And when you're new in an outfit, you're the low guy in the totem pole.
Yeah. Well, that's, that happens.
Somebody has to be.
Somebody has to be. Now, just personally, when you got these the ammunition and stuff, how many tracers are in those things?
1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Normal load, 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Some pilots like more. But we didn't like it because it messed up the gun barrels.
Even worse.
Yeah. The more you used, the more it messed them up.
Did you work on several airplanes or just one in particular?
No, I worked mostly on dive bombers.
Uh-huh.
Then later, I was in the patrol planes, PBMs.
Did you have any relationships with the pilots? Because,
Oh, yeah.
you're kind of part of their lifeline to make sure.
Yeah, there were 2 pilots that I remember that I liked especially. One was a Marine pilot, a first lieutenant named Gill, Gill. I have no idea where he is, where he's from. And another guy, Lieutenant Markham, he had been out in the Pacific.
There's a little relationship, a Navy guy and a Marine,
Well, he was a good guy. He was a Navy pilot, of
Really?
course. And he treated us pretty well.
But you take a little personal interest in those guys too when you're working on their planes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's why they were good guys.
yeah.
They were usually good to you. I shouldn't have said that, but it's true.
Oh, well, I understand. So now you're out there in Alameda,
Yes.
California, working on planes, the same old, working your way up, and hopefully somebody lower than you comes in to do some of the dirty work.
Trying to work myself into going overseas, which
Yeah.
I finally did.
Is that, you just have to wait for that assignment, or could you volunteer for it, or?
Well, as I understand it then, they had, I don't remember what they called it, they had a name for it, but it was like a list of, they required certain ranks and
Right.
rates.
A
And
quota type list?
Yeah, and they filled it.
Okay,
But then I went to the air pack pool on Guam, and that's where they filled it from all over the Pacific.
okay. So from Alameda to Guam, are you the low man?
The total goal, because you're transits,
Yeah.
and they pick you for every dirty job there is.
Well, like you said before, someone's got to do it.
Yeah. And then I went on a ship there only for a couple of weeks, and then I went over ship I ended up on the rest of the war.
And what ship was that?
Those USS Onslow's AVP-48,
And that is a
small seaplane tender.
small seaplane tender. And those seaplanes were used for rescue or for observation?
They were used search and rescue, bombing, Dumbo, that's when they went out and picked up rescue pilots.
Right.
And mail plane went back and forth. That was the cushion job.
Yeah.
Back to Guam to pick up the mail.
So they had several.
You had all kinds of jobs.
Right.
You'd have one for, say, a month,
Uh-huh.
then you'd switch to another one so that everybody got a chance.
Now you're actually a passenger on these planes?
No, sometimes, mostly.
Worked on their ordnance?
Yeah, we loaded the guns and the bombs, and I worked on the aircraft turrets,
Uh-huh.
electrical parts of it.
Yeah.
And we never did load torpedoes that I recall. But they did have a super secret weapon that was supposed to be, that we all talked among ourselves. It was called a Fido. It looked like a short torpedo. It was fat and round and had a 100-pound warhead on it.
Yeah.
Torpex warhead.
That would do some damage.
Yeah, they ran on batteries. And they were attracted by vibration, as I understood it.
Uh-huh.
And one got dropped, a plane came in and hit pretty hard. And the Bombay doors came out in the Fido salvo,
Uh-huh.
and it was running between an aircraft that had a putt-putt, the auxiliary motor code, and a ship
Yeah.
that had their engines going. So they would shut the boat down. The chief petty officer thought of this real quick, and he took it over. Then they ran it back and forth between the two until the batteries petered out and it sunk.
Uh-huh.
And I hope the chief got credit for it. I don't know if he did or not, but he was a pretty sharp cookie.
You saved some lives.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So where did this tender go to?
We set up a seaplane base at Caramaretto, which was probably 15, maybe 20 miles east of Okinawa.
Okay. Is that just like a little coral island or
It
something?
was a bunch of islands,
Okay.
a whole bunch of them, and in the middle it was perfect for seaplanes because it was protected on all sides.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got we went in there 2 days before the invasion of Okinawa and took that over. The Army took over the islands. And it wasn't much to it really for us. We covered the Army guys with our guns,
Yeah.
but that was about it.
Well, let me ask you about your nerves now. When you're amongst 100-pound, 1,000-pound bombs, ammunition, don't wear it, cause any sparks. What was your feeling inside about handling all this ordnance? Did that bother you?
Never even thought about it.
Never thought about it. Just something that's second-hand nature?
No, they were safe if you handle them right.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing about bombs that's dangerous is exudate that seeps out of the threads and so on. It seeps into the threads from where the metal goes into the explosive. And I don't know what causes it. I assume changes in temperature. And we were supposed to wipe those holes out with a solvent and a rag
Right.
before we screwed the fuse in, but we never did. We didn't have time to do
Right.
fool around with that. and we fused bombs in the ship. But I mean, it gets a little bit technical, but you have to, according to what kind of bomb and what you want to do, you have to set the fuses up ahead of time. You put the fuses in when you get out to the aircraft.
Uh-huh.
Well, we'd sit down there and put these fuses together, and they're fulminate of mercury, which will explode from your heat from your hand.
Right.
We never thought about that. I mean,
So
you
was
just
that-
did it.
You just did it.
Yeah, it was
Not
your job.
foolish, you just...
It was your job. We knew what to do. No, that never entered my mind anyway, and I don't think any of the other guys. We were too stupid for one thing. We're all
But
young
with the
kids.
good Navy training too, you know.
We had very good training, but I mean, by stupid, we were young kids.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And everything was funny then. you
Yeah.
know.
Did you ever write any messages on these bombs? Like, you know, this one was from Rochester and poof.
No,
No?
no, that's for the movies.
Okay.
No.
Are you getting news about how the war's going? Because...
We had a paper that we got once a week, usually, and it was a fleet paper. And we were in the 5th Fleet and then in the 7th Fleet. And we'd have news. I don't know how accurate it was. I'm sure some of it was full of propaganda, but at the time, you know, I think it was pretty accurate about
Right.
where we were, what the Marines were doing.
There again, you were young enough and stupid enough to believe it.
Right.
Yeah. So now where are we going? Because it looks like we're island hopping here a little bit.
Well, we were on our way back to the States to be refitted for the invasion of Japan.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know it then, none of us did, except our officers probably knew it. And all we knew was we were going back to the States.
That could get you a little excited.
Yeah, so we were at Guam at night, the day we got the news that the Japs had surrendered. And the guns were going off and the sky was lit up. And the first thing we thought was a raid, because we'd just come from Okinawa and you had raids every night.
Right.
And some guys got hurt, I understood later, from the shrapnel coming down. But we were, of course, all happy. And then we went to Kwajalein and we spent 2 or 3 days there. And then we went back to the States.
Did you have any fear? Obviously, like you said, in Okinawa, you were getting some attacks.
Yeah, we were scared.
Sure. So now your view of going overseas and the war has changed a little bit? And like,
Well, it's pretty hard for me to express. I didn't like it, of course. And I think you gotta be nuts if you like war.
right. So you did see some death and some
Yes,
wars,
Yes.
and that's in your mind forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now you're on your way back to the States. You're pretty excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can hardly wait to spend all that money we saved up.
In a few hours, in a bar or wherever.
Oh, yeah, we all hit the bars. They were glad to see us. But we were glad to get home,
Sure.
to get some decent food, fresh food.
Yeah.
I remember the first day we were back in the States, they served each one of us a half of a head of lettuce. And of course, we just munched that right down. They had 5-gallon tins of fresh milk.
Oh yeah.
And
No
things-
powdered stuff.
No, things like that. You really, didn't realize you missed until you got it.
Yeah. So now you're back someplace in California?
Yeah,
Now-
we pulled back into Wilmington for refitting.
Where's Wilmington at?
It's near LA.
Okay.
And they removed one of our forward gun turrets and put a quad 40 up in its place.
What was your experiences traveling on the Pacific, on big ocean?
A lot of watches, you're 4 on, 4 off.
Right.
And,
What about the waves and the seasickness?
Oh, no, the only time I was seasick was we rode out 2 typhoons at Okinawa,
Uh-huh.
and that would make anybody seasick.
Right.
But the Pacific normally is smooth as glass.
Yeah.
Beautiful sunsets. And I was amazed that you could see an orange peeling on the water with your glasses because you're searching on.
Right.
You better be.
Oh, yeah.
And porpoise, of course, scared us half to death because they like to play with the ships when they're underway, and you'd look and you'd see this thing coming toward you, and it was your picture of a torpedo.
Right.
And it would be a porpoise, and they'd go right under the ship and up the other side and jump. And they had...
Well, even though the war is over, you're still a little tense.
You're still
Maybe some of the Japanese didn't get the word, and they're out there still hunting.
There were a lot of, when we stopped at Guam,
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of them still running loose in the jungle.
Right.
So you didn't venture far from the bases. And they used to come on the bases. But we pump aviation gas from Hawaii to the States to empty our tanks. We carried 74,000 gallons of aviation gasoline.
You mean you brought it back on your
Well, it was in the ship,
okay.
and we pumped it out of a 6-inch line.
Uh-huh.
They fastened over the fantail to empty it out before we got to the States,
Okay.
because we had to go in the yards,
Yeah.
and then
Go in there empty.
Yeah, and they also we spent one day unloading ammunition.
Yeah. Now did you unload that in the middle of the harbor, or did you pull up dockside?
Oh no, you're way out.
Oh yeah.
You're way out on the edge of everything. No
Right.
ships around except
Right.
An ammunition barge. No, they didn't fool around with that.
Yeah. Don't wear any belt buckles or watches or anything that could cause any kind of a spark, probably.
That reminds me of another story on Okinawa. We were bringing bombs up out of the palm boat in the forward hatch and bring them up with the winch. And these kids used to stand there and watch them, and look at them, mumbling about bombs and all that stuff. And you had brackets that fit on them, and then you hook them onto the line and everything. One of them broke, and a 100-pound bomb fell 3 decks, and it tended to plate it. Well, we looked around, and we were the only guys standing there. The rest of them were long gone.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Was that a smart move to stand there and watch it, or you said, eh?
Well, we didn't understand what happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We're so used to being around bombs, I guess it didn't affect us.
And they probably couldn't have got away far enough anyways, where they wouldn't have got hurt.
Oh, somebody would have really gotten hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had a hold full of 500 and 100-pound bombs. Well, there were other funny things like that happened that just, I could go on and on and on about
I
it.
bet you could. Don't wear it to cause any sparks. What was your feeling inside about handling all this ordnance? Did that bother you?
Never thought about it.
Never thought about it. Just something that's secondhand nature?
No, it was, they were safe if you handle them right.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing about bombs that's dangerous is exudate that seeps out of the threads and so on. It seeps into the threads from where the metal goes into the explosive. And I don't know what causes it. I assume changes in temperature. And we were supposed to wipe those holes out with a solvent and a rag.
Right.
Before we screwed the fuse in, but we never did. We didn't have time to do the
Right.
fool around with that. And we fused bombs in the ship. But I mean, it gets a little bit technical. But you have to, according to what kind of bomb and what you want to do, you have to set the fuses up ahead of time. You put the fuses in when you get out to the aircraft.
Uh-huh.
Well, we'd sit down there and put these fuses together, and they're fulminate of mercury, which will explode from your heat from your hand.
Right.
We never thought about that. I mean,
So
you
is
just
that-
did it. You know?
You just did it.
Yeah, it was
Not
your job.
foolish, you just...
It was your job. We knew what to do. No, that never entered my mind anyway, and I don't think any of the other guys. We were too stupid for one thing. We're all
But
young.
with the good Navy training too, you know.
We had very good training, but I mean, by stupid, we were young kids.
Oh yeah, I know.
And everything was funny then. you
Yeah.
know.
Did you ever write any messages on these bombs? Like, you know, this
No.
one was from Rochester and poof.
No,
No?
no, that's for the movies.
Okay.
No.
Are you getting news about how the war's going? Because
We had a paper that we got once a week, usually, and it was a fleet paper. And we were in the 5th Fleet and then in the 7th Fleet. And we'd have news. I don't know how accurate it was. I'm sure some of it was full of propaganda, but at the time, you know, I think it was pretty accurate about
Right.
where we were, what the Marines were doing.
there again, you were young enough and stupid enough to believe it.
Right?
Yeah. So now where are we going? Because it looks like we're island hopping here a little bit.
Well, we were on our way back to the States to be refitted for the invasion of Japan.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know it then, none of us did, except our officers probably knew it. And all we knew was we were going back to the States.
That could get you a little excited.
Yeah, so we were at Guam at night, the day we got the news that the Japs had surrendered. And the guns were going off and the sky was lit up. And the first thing we thought was a raid, because we'd just come from Okinawa and you had raids every night.
Right.
And some guys got hurt, I understood later, from the shrapnel coming down. But we were, of course, all happy. And then we went to Kwajalein and we spent 2 or 3 days there. And then we went back to the States. And
Did you have any fear? Obviously, like you said, in Okinawa, you were getting some
well,
attacks.
Yeah, we were scared.
Sure. So now your view of the going overseas and the war has changed a little bit? Like,
Well, it's pretty hard for me to express. I didn't like it, of course. And I think you got to be nuts if you like war.
right. So you did see some death and some
Yes,
wars,
Yes.
and that's in your mind forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now you're on your way back to the States. You're pretty excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can hardly wait to spend all that money we saved up.
In a few hours, in a bar or wherever.
Oh, yeah, we all hit the bars. They were glad to see us. But we were glad to get home.
Sure.
To get some decent food, fresh food.
Yep.
I remember the first day we were back in the States, they served each one of us a half of a head of lettuce. And of course we just munched that right down. They had 5-gallon tins of fresh milk.
Oh, yeah.
And
No powdered stuff.
No, things like that you really didn't realize you missed until you got it.
Yeah. So now you're back someplace in California?
Yeah, we pulled back into Wilmington for refitting.
Where's Wilmington at?
It's near LA.
Okay.
And they removed one of our forward gun turrets and put a quad 40 up in its place.
What was your experiences traveling on the Pacific, on big ocean?
A lot of watches, you're 4 on, 4 off.
Right.
And,
What about the waves and the seasickness?
Oh, no, the only time I was seasick was we rode out 2 typhoons at Okinawa,
Uh-huh.
and that would make anybody seasick.
Right.
But the Pacific normally is smooth as glass.
Yeah.
Beautiful sunsets, and I was amazed that you could see an orange peeling on the water with your glasses because you're searching on.
Right.
You better be.
Oh, yeah.
And porpoise, of course, scared us half to death because they like to play with the ships when they're underway, and you'd look and you'd see this thing coming toward you, and it was your picture of a torpedo.
Right.
And it would be a porpoise, and they'd go right under the ship and up the other side and jump. And they had...
Well, even though the war is over, you're still a little tense.
You're still
Maybe
hungry.
some of the Japanese didn't get the word, and they're out there still hunting.
There were a lot of, when we stopped at Guam,
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of them still running loose in the jungle.
Right.
So you didn't venture far from the bases. And they used to come on the bases. But we pumped aviation gas from Hawaii to the States to empty our tanks. We carried 74,000 gallons of aviation gasoline.
You mean you brought it back on your
Well, it was in the ship,
okay.
and we pumped it out of a 6-inch line.
Uh-huh.
They fastened over the fantail to empty it out before we got to the States.
Okay.
Because we had to go in the yards,
Yeah.
and then
Go in there empty.
Yeah, and they also we spent one day unloading ammunition.
Yeah. Now did you unload that in the middle of the harbor, or did you pull up dockside?
Oh no, you're way out.
Oh yeah.
You're way out on the edge of everything. No
Right.
ships around except
Right.
An ammunition barge. No, they didn't fool around with that.
Yeah. Don't wear any belt buckles or watches or anything that could cause any kind of a spark, probably.
That reminds me of another story on Okinawa. We were bringing bombs up out of the palm boat in the forward hatch and bring them up with the winch. And these kids used to stand there and watch them, looking at them, mumbling about bombs and all that stuff. And you had brackets that fit on them, and then you hook them onto the line and everything. One of them broke, and a 100-pound bomb fell 3 decks, and it tended to plate in. Well, we looked around, and we were the only guys standing there. The rest of them were long gone.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It was Was that a smart move to stand there and watch it, or you said, eh?
Well, we didn't understand what happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we're so used to being around bombs, I guess it didn't affect us.
And they probably couldn't have got away far enough anyways, where they wouldn't have got hurt.
Oh, somebody would have really gotten hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had a hold full of 500 and 100-pound bombs. Well, there were other funny things like that happened that just, I could go on and on and on about
I
it.
bet you could. It actually made the days go by faster.
None of them went by fast as far
Fast
as I
enough.
was. Yeah.
But you got to remember now, from Rochester to when you're coming back to the States, a few years passed. Did you get, what was your rate then?
I was a second-class petty officer.
Second class. E5.
Yeah.
Yep.
AOM 2C was the rate.
So now, if I recall, getting out of the service, you have to have a certain amount of points. Was that?
I was on enlistment till I was 21.
Okay.
They held me 3 weeks past my birthday for some reason. Mr. Truman, I guess, had a reason.
Right.
But anyway, that's how I got out.
Yeah.
I had the points, but they didn't pertain to it. I got a partial cold. Boy, you can't get rid of them.
Oh, I know.
My eyes water, my nose runs. That tape isn't going.
Okay. So now, your ship's back, you unload the ammo, you get into California, and you're just hanging around there.
Well, then they refitted the ship, and then we went up to Whidbey Island, Washington.
Okay.
And Oak Harbor, there's a big Navy air base up there. And that's where we were when I got discharged. I didn't get discharged there. They sent me to Great Lakes for
Right.
discharge.
So,
That's where I left the ship.
any fond memories of friends and stuff? Did you keep in touch with those guys at all?
One fellow, Hugh Cook, was from the UP. He was a gunner's mate striker
Yeah.
on the ship, and we got together for, well, after the war until I went back in the service.
Okay.
We used
Kept
to
in
see
contact.
each other, yeah. But after I went back in, I lost contact with him.
So you come home after World War II thinking, I did my duty, I'm a patriot, a war hero, you know, in a sense that you served your country, and you're looking to start your life. Then what happened?
Couldn't get a job.
Good job, yeah.
Yeah, so this friend of mine, Mark McDonald, and I enlisted in the Air Force. He talked me into that. He had been a pilot. And
Where'd you go for training?
we didn't have any training.
You didn't have to, because you were a veteran and had some experience.
Right.
And your first assignment?
Was MacDill Air Force Base in Florida.
But now you were back home in Rochester for a while.
Yes.
Okay.
And from May until October.
Great.
And then we went back in the service.
Why did you go back in the Navy? Any reason?
Well, mostly because Mark talked me into going in the Air Force.
Okay.
I didn't care as long as I felt more secure in the service,
Right.
evidently,
Right.
because I couldn't find a decent job. And the woods were full of guys trying to find work, you know. But I didn't regret it.
One thing, you didn't have to go to any boot camp.
No.
And it actually is another part of the country you get to see.
I didn't like Florida. I still don't. I go down there every now and then
Yeah.
to visit relatives, but
Too hot?
the humidity and the heat get me.
Yeah.
But I was there for, that's when I got married.
In Florida?
And when I was in Florida, and my wife came down there. We were there about 6 or 8 months, and I got shipped overseas again to Korea.
Now, let me ask you, is your wife from Rochester?
Yes, we
Well, so,
went to school.
obviously you did something in those couple months that, after you got out of the Navy, besides looking for work, you actually were looking for a girlfriend and a future wife?
Well, I knew her because we went to school together.
Ah.
We started going together.
So she was writing you letters while you were in the Navy?
No, we just ran into each other after I got home.
Okay.
Another classmate had a party for me a couple of days after I got discharged. And my wife was there because we were all classmates.
Yeah. Love at first sight again?
Yeah, probably. It was something like that. Yeah. And she traveled with me every place I went after that.
Right. Down to Florida.
Yeah, and then after I spent a little over a year in Korea. And
Was this before the Korean War started, or?
yes,
Okay.
it was 1947
Wow.
and 48, part of 48. Then I got transferred to Japan, and she came over to Japan.
Uh-huh.
We came back to the States in December of 49.
Right.
And we traveled around in Japan. It's a beautiful country. I still had animosity toward the Japanese, but there weren't many men around.
Right.
For young kids and old men.
That had to be a tough place to be.
It was very tough on them. And Korea was a stinking hole if I ever saw one.
Nothing, eh?
Dirty, filthy. They had nothing. The Japanese had them under their thumb since, I guess, 1910.
Yeah. Could you see the animosity and the boiling point in Korea? Could you feel it or sense it, or?
Yeah, the people, they used to beg us to stay there. They knew we were leaving before we knew it.
Right.
And I had quite a few of them. I was associated with a policeman there.
Okay.
Because I was put in the military police in Korea.
Right.
They had no other place for me.
Yeah.
So they said, "Do you want to go in the military police?" And I said, "Not really." Anyway, I was with a lot of policemen, and they talked about it constantly. They were worried because, and I understood from some of my friends that went there during the war that most of them were killed by the communists because of us.
So then you and your wife are in Japan, kind of arm in arm a little bit. Obviously, you're still in the service.
Yeah.
Got a job to do. What were you doing over there in Japan?
I was a criminal investigator.
You went from a air ordnance person to a criminal investigator?
Yep.
Wow, that's quite a...
Real quick.
Yeah.
Well, after I got into it in Korea, I got interested in it.
Yeah.
And that's what I got in college too.
So, okay, so after this little gig in Japan, then what?
Then I came back and was stationed in South Dakota.
So, metropolis. Yeah. A lot colder than Florida.
20 miles from the base to where I lived,
Yeah.
through desolate country and all. But I liked it out there because I liked to hunt and fish.
Well, you had that rifle experience.
Yeah, and then there was good fishing out there also.
Right. So the second tour of duty is not too bad.
No.
There was no war going on.
No.
Well, actually, it started, and you're still in, but did you have a sense that you might be called back to Korea?
Oh, guys were being sent to Korea right and left.
Yeah.
And then they had a shipment that was going to North Africa, Morocco. We built 5 air bases there. And they told me that I had a choice of going back to Korea or Morocco, and I said Morocco. I'd been there to Korea.
Right.
So I went to Morocco for about a year.
Yeah. A criminal investigator there in Morocco?
Yeah, yeah.
And give me a little brief, what are you investigating?
Military crimes.
Committed by our servicemen?
Yeah, yeah, in or on the base or off the base.
Okay.
We worked a lot with the FBI and the local police of every city.
Wow. That had to be interesting.
Some were, and some were pretty dull, you know. I mean, like stealing something from the mess hall.
Wow, okay.
But we had, I investigated a murder in Japan with another fellow, still my friend I had met in Korea.
Yeah.
He's a retired lieutenant colonel. And we're still friends and still see each other.
Well, say, come now, January of 1953, your career's coming to an end.
Well, I couldn't see any place to go because the promotions weren't coming through. And I talked with my CO, Lieutenant Colonel Sagley, and he said, why don't you go to college and then come back in and get a commission?
Yeah. On the GI Bill.
Yeah, so I got out and I started school, and I got a good job working in a factory in Rochester. I made quite a bit of money.
What?
And it was a twist drill
Okay.
business, and I salted away a lot of money. I lived with my in-laws, my wife and I, and it didn't cost me anything. My father-in-law wouldn't accept anything. He wanted me to save money to go to school.
Right.
So then I started college, and I finished in 3 years.
Uh-huh. Going full-time.
Yeah,
And which college was that?
Michigan State.
Fine school.
You bet. Rah, rah.
And what'd you get your degree in?
Well, they call it criminal justice now, but it was called police administration.
Okay.
And then the Narcotics Bureau, the U.S. Bureau, tried to recruit me, and I didn't want that, so I went into the ATF.
Okay.
And I spent 21 years there.
Working out of what city?
Detroit, Chicago,
Uh-huh.
Greensboro, North Carolina,
Uh-huh.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
I got around. I was a senior special agent, and I didn't have much supervision. I could pretty well
Call your own shots?
Yeah. Well, chief enforcement was in Cincinnati,
Uh-huh.
and if they had a job in, say, Greensboro, which they did, then he sent me down there.
So you finally retired from there?
Yeah, and then I worked at Greenfield Village for 20-some years.
In security?
I started out in security. I ended up being a safety administrator. I always start one job and end up in another job.
So you're married, and when did your first little baby come along?
In November of 1954. We were married 8 years before we had a child.
And that was a little boy, girl?
Girl.
Girl.
Yep.
And how many kids did you have? 4?
4. 3 girls and a boy.
Is the boy the youngest?
No, there's a daughter younger.
Okay. I was gonna say, you were gonna keep trying until you got that little boy.
Yeah, he was just here. He lives in North Carolina.
Yeah. So I just wanna, I know we're gonna end this pretty soon. Anything finally you want to say about your service career, about your country, anything, words of wisdom to the other young Americans coming up? Anything?
Well, the same old thing you hear from the old guys is going to keep your bowels open and your mouth shut. And that's good advice for
Yes.
being in the military.
Yeah.
I don't regret any of it. Some of it was miserable.
But it helped make you the man you are today, I would believe.
Well, I think I got a lot of experience and I gained some common sense, which I think lacks in a lot of our young folks today.
Right. Were you a member of any veterans organizations?
I belong to the VFW and the American Legion.
Okay.
I'm not active. I don't.
Right.
I'm not a joiner, I guess, but
No,
I support them both.
absolutely. So you had a fine working career afterwards, and you raised a...
I enjoyed my job with ATF very much. I still am in touch with people here in Detroit,
Right,
and they treat retirees really well.
right. Well, you're a wealth of knowledge and experience, and
Yeah.
every now and then they'll probably learn something from you, you would hope.
Well, there's one, I call her a girl, she's probably in her early 40s. She's a special agent, and my friend, retired, the guy that's a professor at Oakland University, we meet for breakfast probably once or twice a month. In fact, we're going tomorrow morning. And she keeps us abreast of what's going on, and we're always welcome down at the office. We go downtown.
Well, it's for me, veterans are a band of brothers. Now, obviously, the
Absolutely.
ATF, it's a band of brothers.
Absolutely.
And I will never, ever forget my veteran experiences and the friends I've made. I'm sure you're the same. Any last words before we conclude? Anything you think I've missed that I haven't asked you about? Because
It's
veterans
pretty-
got 1,000 stories.
I know, and I could go on, and just that, to me, they're boring. My daughters tell me no, but to me, they're boring. No, I've made some very good friends in the military, good people. And I don't regret any of it.
Henry, do you have any questions for Don? I think it's been a great interview.
Yeah, very
I've
interesting.
not sat in this chair and not learned something from you. I mean, every veteran I interview, including yourself, tells me something that just amazes me. And, I know when you think about your war experiences, I can see it in your eyes. They moisten because it's in our hearts. And I want to honor you and thank you for the veteran that you are and for the time you put in, because you have given us all, Americans, the blessings that we have. And I thank you, Don,
Thank you.
from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, sir. You're an honored gentleman. God bless you.